Imagine a robot that's never touched a tennis racket in its life. No training, no coach, no muscle memory built over years of practice. Now imagine that same robot stepping onto a court and returning your shots again and again. 9,650 times out of 10,000, 96.5% success rate against real humans in real-world conditions. But here's the part that should actually stop you cold. It didn't learn from a professional athlete. It didn't get fed perfect, clean, motion-captured data. It learned from amateurs, regular people, messy, imperfect, inconsistent human movement, and it figured it out anyway. For years, we told ourselves one story about robots. We said, yes, machines are getting smarter. Yes, they can beat us at chess, write our emails, maybe even drive our cars, but they'll never truly move like us. They'll never feel the game. They'll never adapt on the fly the way a human body does. We thought intelligence was the final frontier. We were wrong. It was skill. And right now, in labs across China, that barrier is being demolished. This is what's happening, and why it changes everything. So what do we actually mean by the human skill barrier? It's not intelligence. Machines solved intelligence a while ago. It's something more physical, more subtle. It's the ability to move through the world dynamically, to react, adapt, and perform under conditions that are always slightly different from the last time. Think about what happens when you catch a ball. Your brain doesn't calculate a perfect trajectory equation. It reads the spin, the wind, the angle, and improvises. Thousands of micro adjustments happening faster than conscious thought. That's embodied skill. And robots have always been terrible at it. Old robots needed perfect environments, perfect data, perfect conditions. The moment something unexpected happened, a gust of wind, an irregular surface, a ball that came in slightly off angle, they'd fail hard. The real world isn't perfect. The real world is messy. And for most of robotics history, that messiness was a wall robots simply couldn't get over, until a team in China decided to stop fighting the mess and learn from it instead. A research group working with a company called Galbit built a training system they named Layton. Their goal was to teach a humanoid robot to play tennis, but they made one radical decision up front: no perfect data. Instead of capturing the movement of elite athletes, they recorded about 5 hours of amateur players, real people with real flaws, irregular swings, inconsistent footwork, human imperfection at its most honest. Here's where it gets clever. Instead of trying to teach the robot one unified tennis swing, they broke the sport down into building blocks: a forehand, a backhand, a shuffle step, a pivot, a crossover, each one stored as a small modular skill. Then they built what researchers call a latent action space. Think of it like a vocabulary of movement. The robot doesn't execute a pre-written script. It reads the situation in front of it, picks the right movement from its vocabulary, and combines them intelligently to respond. That's not programming, that's learning. Reinforcement learning and large-scale simulation then trained the system to react to real incoming balls with natural movement from different court positions against actual human opponents. The result was deployed on a Unitree G1 humanoid robot, and across 10,000 trials, it hit a 96.5% success rate, consistently returning balls near target locations, holding multi-shot rallies from both sides of the court. The researchers say future versions could ditch motion capture entirely and use active vision, where the robot just watches the world and responds. And they're already looking beyond tennis, soccer, parkour, any physical domain where humans move dynamically. The principle scales. And that's what makes this genuinely different. But skill isn't just about technique, it's also about raw physical performance. And here, the numbers are getting uncomfortable. Usain Bolt, the fastest human who has ever lived, his 100-meter world record averages out to 10.44 meters per second. He peaked at over 12 meters per second in the middle of that race. For 9 seconds in Berlin in 2009, he was the absolute physical ceiling of the human body. In February, a team in China unveiled a full-size humanoid robot called Bolt. It hit 10 meters per second. That's 95% of Usain Bolt's average race speed, on metal legs. Unitree's founder went even further. He claimed that by mid-2026, humanoid robots, especially coming out of China, could run the 100 meters in under 10 seconds, faster than any human ever recorded. Is that proven? Not yet. High-speed bipedal running is brutally difficult. Balance, force, timing, and motor control all have to stay perfectly synchronized at full sprint. One miscalculation and the robot goes down hard. But the fact that we're having this conversation at all, that robots are within single-digit percentages of the greatest sprinter in human history, tells you something fundamental has shifted. Here's the real difference between what you're seeing now and every robotics demo you've watched before. Old robots followed scripts. An engineer wrote every movement. The environment had to be controlled. Any surprise meant failure. These robots learn. They train across millions of virtual simulations. They internalize patterns from real human behavior. They adapt to what's actually in front of them instead of just executing what they were told. The difference between scripted and adaptive is the difference between a cassette tape and a live musician. One plays what's recorded, the other responds to the room. But here's what the researchers themselves will tell you honestly. The generalization problem isn't solved. Robots can be spectacular in controlled settings and fall apart the moment the real world throws something unexpected at them. A surface they haven't felt before, a crowd too close, an obstacle in the wrong place. Unitree's own founder admitted it. Generalization is still the hardest wall in embodied AI. Getting robots to perform reliably in genuine chaos is a fundamentally different challenge than perfecting them in a lab. They're closing the gap, but the gap is real. Now here's where it stops being about cool robots and starts being about the world economy. Building one impressive humanoid for a demo is one thing. Building thousands of them is another. China is doing both. Unitree signed a major deal with Siemens' digital manufacturing division with one stated target: 10,000 humanoid robots produced per year in 2026. Not a pilot program, a production line. Unitree reported that total humanoid orders topped 1.4 billion yuan in 2025 alone. This is where the humanoid race becomes an industry. And skill automation at that scale doesn't just replace labor, it replaces human capability, the ability to do things that require speed, dexterity, and real-world adaptation. The things we always assumed only humans could do. That was our moat, and it's being crossed. Before we get too far ahead, Robotics also gave us a sharp reminder this week of exactly how far deployment still has to go. A service robot at a hot pot restaurant in China, brought in for a dinner dance performance. Instead of delighting guests, it started swinging its arms erratically, smashing plates, sending chopsticks and dishware flying across the room. Staff had to physically rush in and stop it at a hot pot restaurant, with boiling soup on every table. The restaurant said the robot hadn't malfunctioned, that a guest had asked it to move too close to the table, limiting its range of motion. Maybe true, but it makes the point louder. Robots that perform flawlessly in controlled demos can become genuinely dangerous in crowded, unpredictable real-world spaces. The capabilities are accelerating. The safety frameworks and real-world deployment thinking have to accelerate with them. So let's come back to where we started. We spent decades telling ourselves that physical skill was the one thing machines couldn't replicate. The coordination, the muscle memory, the ability to feel the game and respond. We said, fine, let them have chess, let them have language. But the human body? That's ours. Turns out, we just needed to give them enough messy human data and enough simulation time. A robot learning tennis from amateurs and hitting 96.5%. A humanoid sprinting at 95% of Usain Bolt's world record speed. 10,000 robots on an assembly line by end of year. Each of these would have been the story of the decade 5 years ago. They all happened in the same week. We thought intelligence was the final frontier. It was always skill. And the frontier just moved. The question isn't whether robots will match human skill. It's how long before they outperform it, and whether we're ready for that answer. If this got you thinking, subscribe and drop your take below. I'll catch you in the next one.